Eric out of Naples, you're on the air, Eric. I don't have a lot of time, but you have some comments with regard to the Tony Stewart incident.
Yes, Bubba, good morning. I was watching that video, of course, along with everybody else that listens to your show, and I think one of the first things that jumped out at me that kind of contradicts what the naysayers are saying Tony Stewart accelerated towards this Mr. Ward gentleman. I think the opposite of that is true. Look at the video. This gentleman willingly gets out of his car, and he accelerates specifically towards Tony Stewart. And I think even take it a step further, a trained professional driver knows that in many, many situations, the brakes are the last things you want to hit in a bad situation, because once you lock up those brakes, that car is going to continue in the direction that it was last moving when it had traction. So you've effectively lost control of the car. I think that fraction of a second that Tony Stewart probably saw him, he didn't have an opportunity to react, and his training said accelerate as best I can.
Well, not only that, Eric, but not to interrupt you, but first of all, and Tony didn't even hit the guy head on. Tony missed the guy. In order to hit a guy head on, you have to hit him with your right front tire or your front of your car. Tony didn't. If you watch the slow down video that we've since provided with the tutorial arrows, Tony cleared the guy, and the kid jumped on the side of his vehicle. The kid Spider-Man'd on the side of Tony's car. I don't know if you've seen the latest video about that.
No, I haven't, but that proves my point that he accelerated towards Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart was trying to get away from him, and we all know what happened after that. The theory that Tony Stewart accelerated into him doesn't hold water.
No, it doesn't. And secondly, if you go to my website, btls.com, 25, I've since found some more. The original guy pulled it down, but
right.
There's been some more of late. I'm sure Steve will be able to find it. But if you go to my website, btls.com, you'll see as the number one rotator, the video that they super slow-moed it down like a zillion times, and you can see the guy. Tony misses the guy entirely, and the guy jumps on the side of Tony's car, grabbing a hold of the top wing, falls off, and gets collected into the right rear. I mean, that's a whole new spin that, quite frankly, not a lot of the media. Now, Channel 8, God bless Channel 8, they covered it last night in the piece they did on me. But, yeah, Eric, he jumped on the side of Tony's car. And that's not some hearsay theory. It's very evident if you watch the video.
Well, I'll have to do that then, because that substantiates everything, and honestly, it exonerates Tony Stewart. They can't vilify him now.
Well, but they're going to, my friend. Oh my God! Even yesterday, man. Did you see the articles? By the way, Eric, thank you so much. Did you see the articles yesterday? There was a piece like in the New York Post or the New York Times, like a very reputable paper from some type of lawyer or something like that, that's saying, Tony Stewart's not out of the woods yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back with major criminal charges. How can that be? Are you watching the same tape I am? Are you watching the same tape I am? Let's just say worst case scenario, Tony plowed him over, as Nancy Grace and everybody else says, with the front of his car. Now, that didn't happen, right? I mean, there's substantial evidence that shows that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Everybody will agree on, even the haters will agree on one thing. The guy got collected in the right rear, right?
Yeah.
Even no matter what you believe, everybody 100% agrees that the kid got collected in the right rear. Yeah. Now, whether the kid was hanging on the side of the race car or he got collected into the right rear is, I guess, where the polarization comes from. The video that just surfaced yesterday via our program shows the kid literally jumping on the side of Tony's car. But still, since the guy didn't get collected by the front tire or front bumper, it's not Tony's fault. Tony, if you get collected by the right rear, that means you were cleared initially and you found it necessary to get close enough to that race car to get collected into the right rear.
It's a racing deal.
It is absolutely a racing deal. And let's not forget, I know there's probably some kind of legal wrangling, like the fruits of a poison or something like that. Manson, how many times has Kevin Hazlett and some of the criminal guys came in and said, listen, isn't it like if the cops illegally get inside of the trunk and what you got busted for is in the trunk, but they didn't obtain the proper documentation to get into the trunk, then they can't use what's in the trunk against you, right?
Yeah.
Like the fruits of a poison or something like that?
Fruits of a poisonous tree.
The fruits of a poisonous tree. They often use that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's use that same mentality. If you don't get out of the race car and you don't break, standard track protocol, and you stay fit and you stay put where you're supposed to, or in real close proximity of your race car, you don't get hit, right? Almost like fruits of a poisonous tree kind of deal. If the cops would obtain the correct documentation to get in that trunk, then you can throw the book at the guy when he's got a pound of cocaine back there. But since you just arbitrarily opened that trunk up by yourself, well, chances are that kid might be walking. Jerry out of Tampa says that he's had enough. I'd love to have this call. Jerry, I see your comments that say that you think that we've talked about the Tony Stewart thing enough, and that we need to move on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think if you
all right, well then why don't you go ahead and listen to another radio station, because it's the biggest, it's still the ongoing largest story in America. And I have some closeness to this particular story. So Jerry, listen, you don't gotta listen to me. Nobody's forcing you to listen to me, you nerd. And you know what, Manson? Even if it's our fourth day of talking about Tony Stewart, I promise you that our fourth day regurged Tony Stewart talk is 213% better than anything right now you can possibly find on the radio.
You're absolutely correct. And if you listen to the show, you should know that if we think somebody's being screwed and railroaded, we're going to come to their defense over and over again.
Remember the woman, Manson, that and she's serving 15 years in prison, that ran the Palm Harbor daycare that got railroaded by the system?
Absolutely.
We've spent a ton of time on that. We've spent a ton of time on the Jackson House. We've spent a ton of time on, remember the guy who got touched by the Greek priest?
Yeah.
We overkill things, my friend. I'm sorry you don't like it, buddy. I'm sorry your wife has picked up about 50 pounds since you've married her, and you woke up frustrated today and you got to try to take that up on me. I'm sorry, buddy. It's not a big deal.
It just sucks that Tony Stewart has to defend himself from something that you can clearly see is not his fault. He didn't deliberately hit the guy. The guy, he made a bad decision. He unfortunately died, and now his family's trying to put him to rest. And these guys, there's so many people trying to put this whole murderer stigma on Tony Stewart when really he did nothing wrong. It just sucks that it happened,
including Kevin Ward's dad
this weekend.
Matt, you got a comment about Kevin?
It sucks, man. It really does.
These people, who are, saying he's a murderer and stuff, they're like people who don't know sports at all, and they watch a baseball game, and they think the guy that hit Alex Cobb in the head with a line drive is
the bad guy.
Is the bad guy. It's like, no.
And it doesn't matter whether...
Can't you see the video? Don't you know anything about anything?
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether he's guilty or not, or whether they agree with it. They're just going to go against you to go against you. So, I mean,
Matt,
they're entitled to their opinion.
Matt, you're on your air. Hello, Matt.
Hey, I was just calling about the statement that Dad put out. I saw it on SportsCenter. He said they put it out in the Syracuse News, but pretty much buried Tony Stewart as it was his fault, and he pretty much run him down and killed his son.
Yeah, the dad,
like father, like son, I would probably say.
Yeah, Kevin Ward's dad now is not talking about his kid being a hothead and blasting out of the vehicle and virtually running and gauging up Tony's car and jumping on the side of Tony's car. They've abandoned that talk. Now they're going to the wreck in itself, and in the wreck in itself, Manson, the wreck in itself was not injury prone at all. It basically flattened his right rear tire. So now the guy
happens all the time.
Exactly, Matt. Great point. Thank you. The guy's like, well, if Tony wouldn't have hogged my son up the track, this wouldn't all happen. So is that what you're resting your laurels on now? You're resting your laurels on. You've gone now that the damning video has come out against your son that he's Spider-Man on the side of Tony Stewart's car. And you can't blame Tony for running over the guy, because Tony did run over the guy, and Tony's the victim here. So now you're going to rewind the story back to the actual race incident, when, if anybody knows anything about racing, Tony had the inside position on the low deal and gave your kid a standard slider. I promise you, Mr. Hart, that if I went into the track videographer of this racetrack, for your kid's been racing sprint cars now for 4 or 5 or 6 years and done well, Manson, I promise you, because if you're a good race car driver, you do 2 or 3 or 4 of those slide jobs a race, okay?
If you want to win.
I promise you. And that's what nobody's doing. And maybe we should do that, Manson, is we should come up with how many slide jobs has Kevin Ward put on guys. Slide jobs it's standard protocol in dirt racing. It's when the guy goes in quick, a little bit lower. There's two guys fighting it out. One guy goes high, one guy goes low. Usually the low guy's momentum will carry him up the track. I'm trying to kind of put it in most layman terms. The guy that on the high side has two options: to kind of tap the brake a little bit, nose the car down, and then dart under the guy, or to lift, reset the car, and try to get him the next corner. That's what you do. So I find it amazing now. The dad has gone from Tony Stewart ran over my kid to, well, Tony Stewart gave my kid a slide job, hogged him up the track, and this would not have happened. Further, just grasping, absolutely grasping at this particular deal. And you know damn well that Tony's going to probably have to civilly make this thing go away, write him a check. Whereas I wish Tony would be advised not to give the guy one stinking cent. And I hope the NASCAR community endures Tony and embraces him because he's getting a railroad job. He didn't do anything wrong. David, hi.
Hey, how you doing?
This stuff really's got me hot, full hot.
Me too. He should have done the regular NASCAR thing and thrown the helmet at him if he wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, stay at your car, and when he comes on by, zing the helmet at it and dent the wing or make the car run over it and dent the belly pan or something.
Yesterday on the way to work, I hear you got the super slow-mo video, so I jet to work to go watch it. And if you watch it closely, at the very end, you'll see the car jump slightly to the right. It's got to be when you can see him hanging on the wing. Got to be when his legs go into the right rear tire.
Well, listen, the bottom line is when those cars have two things, they have two little bumpers on the side of their car called Nerf bars, okay?
Right.
And what that does is that kind of keeps the other guy's, tires from getting in that compartment, right? Which would cause a mass flip. The kid's obviously, that's where he's jumped on that Nerf bar, and which causes the car to squat down to the right. And so that's the squatting to the right deal. And at this point, Tony just knows that he's got a spot. This is all about in the time lapse of about a half a second. The guy jumps on the side of the car. Tony doesn't know what's going on, and the kid gets collected into a big ass 109-inch right rear. It's pretty much that simple.
A stupid decision, a half a second, and it's all over.
Remember that toy we used to have, guys, called Sucker Man, and he would be like a man out of rubber, and you'd throw him and he'd stick against the window. He had little suction cups on him.
Yeah.
The guy tried to Sucker Man onto Tony's wing, and that usually doesn't work out too good for you.
Yeah.
Randy Burnett, the king of Gibsonton. Where's my fish for my pond at, Randy?
Hey, brother, I got to get with you later about that and get that code because I couldn't get in on Sunday.
Oh, Jesus. I'll just text you the code later today, okay?
Yeah, okay. We're going to do that. But listen, probably maybe Gene Lasker's maybe seen more races than I have. And, truly, Manson hit it right on the head with a racing deal. The kid's car wasn't even really hurt until he made contact with the wall and, flattened the right tire. It looked like the track maybe had laid rubber. The kid got up into the marbles and really spun around, but it's a common
I don't even know that I was talking to Greg Leonard, and I don't even know that Tony's right rear tapped him. I don't even know that Tony's right rear.
Yeah, I think the kid just got up, got out of the rubber, spun the car. I think he thought he was going to be on Sports Center, framming on Tony's wing the next day, and he was on Sports Center, but it wasn't because he was, being a man by framming on Tony's wing.
And let's see how many slide jobs he's put on people over the years. So the guy's a very successful racer there locally, and I guarantee you that he's put a couple hundred slide jobs on people.
And the press keeps calling people to get them to talk bad about Tony, but there's not one racer anywhere around that talk. I mean, Tony does too much for grassroots racing, and it's just, Tony, Tony as well as we do. He's hurting as bad as anybody, but that was strictly, like Manson said, it was a racing deal, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Randy, where's my fish?
I'm going to have them, brother. Just give me that text so I can get that stuff in there. We can get rolling with it.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Channel 8, man, I got to give him credit. This is the Channel 8 piece that ran as the lead story on the 11 o'clock last night. I'm going to run it now. I'm going to get you guys' opinion on it, okay? I really want your opinion on it, okay? I really want you guys to let me know what you think about it, okay?
It is the video.
25, we need to watch the video portion of it.
Right.
I think we do, don't you think? Because it is very much a video story with some of the
Do you have it?
things that they have. I think you sent it to me, did you not?
Yeah, I did.
Can you send it to Manson as well?
Yep, he has it.
And I'd like for you guys to watch it with me here. This is the Channel 8 piece that they did last night. I think that this is, obviously it's about me, but I think it's some of the most fair coverage so far. At the end of the day, they also show you how virtually impossible it is to the right side visibility in a sprint car. I mean, they get into some things. Did you see the part 25 where they put the camera inside of a helmet with tear-offs and how almost impossible it is to see with that as well?
Yeah, I did see that.
Here we go. Stand by. This is the News Channel 8 piece from last night. It was the lead story, Melanie Michaels. I'm trying to hit.
It is the video people are still talking about, and tonight there's a new look at the deadly accident involving sprint car drivers Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward Jr.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know, Manson, I don't know of a lot of major news places that have played the slowed down arrow version of this crash. Have you seen it anywhere?
I don't know any.
Right.
Down and stirring some new questions. News Channel 8's Melanie Michael is talking exclusively with Stewart's longtime friend, and she joins us now live. And Mel, Stewart, no stranger to the Tampa Bay area.
He certainly is not, Gail. Good evening to you. Tony Stewart visits Tampa Bay often, and he loves it here. He especially loves visiting his very dear friend, Bubba the Love Sponge. Bubba tells us today this entire event broke his heart, and he wanted to talk about it exclusively and share his story only with News Channel 8.
I am the closest person to this mishap. I own a racetrack. I've raced these cars. My son raced these cars, and I know Tony.
They are lifelong friends with a bond through racing. Nationally syndicated radio talk show host Bubba the Love Sponge and sprint car driver Tony Stewart have seen each other through good times and bad. They are the best of buddies.
Which, by the way, I'm going to stop it now. She didn't really expand on that, but when I was out of work for 04 and 05, I pretty much ran around with Tony race to race because I didn't have anything to do. And he really befriended me. I mean, we really became close at that time. So, and, you know, Manson, that was a tough time for us.
It was.
When we didn't have jobs for 2 years and didn't know if, what the hell we were going to be doing.
What made you want to speak out today?
Well, I mean, that's what I do is I speak out for the little guy. I'm the people's hammer. I'm the guy who sticks up for the unpopular opinion. Plus, let's not forget, I mean, he's a pretty damn good friend of mine, and he's a pretty damn good person.
In an exclusive interview with News Channel 8, Bubba defended his friend.
Here it is 3 days later. I finally said enough. Let me tell you what you guys are missing.
He's talking about this new angle of the accident that killed Kevin Ward Jr.
I'll play it again. Hold on. I think I showed it one more time. Watch.
Some say it appears Kevin jumped on Tony Stewart's car.
Now he is right there.
Was the young driver so angry that he rushed Tony's car and tried to get inside? The sheriff maintains Tony Stewart did not commit a crime.
I think that that's important for people to not slough that off.
Yeah.
The sheriff, now, mind you, the sheriff answers to the Ward family because that's the jurisdiction that he represents, and his constituents answer to the Ward family and relatives. It's not the most popular opinion to side necessarily with the big, celebrity NASCAR guy, unless it's absolutely the right thing to do, right? I mean, Manson, if it's 50-50 and you make a discretionary call on that, you err towards the side of the people that live in your community.
Always.
Not the big sling and D NASCAR guy. Unless there's so much evidence, as there is, and the sheriff is privy even to more evidence than we have, he knows this went down the way we've said it went down. The kid Spider-Man on the side of Tony's car. Tony couldn't have done anything about this. The kid took a lick on the right rear. It's really that simple. It's sad how much they are burying an innocent man. And now that, now 25, there's people that probably liked Tony Stewart that now don't like Tony Stewart because they have been spoon-fed this Nancy Grace type mentality. I mean, it's an absolute no-win situation for Tony Stewart. He's got heat and hate unnecessarily that he could never want. Who would ever want to go through this? Ever.
I have zero filter. That's how I feel. Tony's getting screwed right now.
Bubba showed us just how difficult it can be to see someone on the other side of the car.
Kevin would have been where I'm standing right now.
And through multiple layers of plastic that drivers must wear. In fact, it's the same gear Bubba's 12-year-old son Tyler wears each weekend.
I was worried about him. I know he's going through a hard time right now.
Tyler considers Tony Stewart a mentor. In fact, Tony calls him once a week and reviews his races, even reminding the sixth grader to keep up his grades. In the end, Bubba tells us that's why he spoke out. He wants people, when they think of racing, to think of this image of Tony Stewart.
And there's another new development in this case. We should let you know that investigators in upstate New York are now reviewing a second video of that accident taken on Saturday night. And they're asking anyone in the public, if you were there or if you know someone who was there, to please turn in that video as well. But I will reiterate, the sheriff is saying again tonight, there was no criminal activity. Gail?
Just tragic for sure. Any idea when we might see Tony Stewart back on the track again?
Well, that was certainly one of the questions I posed to Bubba today. Is there a possibility we could see Tony Stewart back rather soon? And Bubba speculated a bit, but he said it is very possible we could see Tony Stewart racing again this Sunday at a race coming up in Michigan. And when and if we get that announcement, of course, we'll let you know right here on News Channel 8.
All right, thank you. Melanie Michael live in Tampa for this evening.
Again, I think one of the better pieces. I've not seen, has anybody in this room seen a pro Tony piece yet?
No.
I think Fox did one like late Sunday.
Really?
Yeah,
well, good for Fox then.
Just basically saying that, it wasn't completely, Tony's fault. It's just, something that happens in racing.